Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast. My name is Lucy Heavens, and I welcome to CMO Therapy, a podcast that's hopefully going to help you navigate your marketing journey. Because let me tell you, I get it. Being a marketing leader is no walk in the park. In every episode, we deep dive headfirst into the world of marketing, where uncertainty, tight budgets, and fierce competition are just the beginning of the roller coaster ride. But guess what? You are not alone in this. Why go solo when you can tap into the powerhouse of insights from some of those most awesome marketing leaders in the game? And look, the title might include the word therapy, but we are not just talking about challenges here. We are tackling them head on. So join us as we deep dive into the nitty gritty, share war stories, and unlock secret strategies. And get ready for those no holds bars conversations because sometimes I have no filter. So if you are a chief marketing officer, a marketing lead, or someone just looking to up their marketing game, then I am so glad that you are here with us today. And today I am super glad to have with me the very amazing Michael. Michael, do you want to give just a very quick introduction to the audience?
Yes, happy to, and thanks a lot for having me on, Lucy. So Michael Treacy, Director of Marketing and Business Development at OpenPayd, and for those that haven't heard of OpenPayd before, we provide universal financial infrastructure for any business to move and manage money globally.
Nice, lovely. You've got that elevator pitch nailed, haven't
Oh,
you?
pretty.
Okay, so the title that we agreed on for the podcast today is Who Moved My MQL? Adventures in Alignment. And oh my God, do I love this topic. Everyone that knows me knows that this is one of my favorite topics because I am a massive fan of schmarketing. Yes, I said schmarketing. And I really do believe that kind of sales and marketing should be in each other's pockets. So in my view, there's kind of no difference between sales and marketing. We're on the same team, but I see so much misalignment between these two functions. So yeah, I'm really excited to get your take on this actually. So let's get into it. So I'm going to start off with a bit of a big sort of question, and that is, what is the kind of most ridiculous misunderstanding that you've witnessed kind of happen between sales and marketing, and especially kind of what we were talking about before around how we're both in that sort of long sales cycles area. So yeah, spill the beans, go on.
Yeah, I think you nailed it in the sense that they shouldn't be operating as two different functions. Realistically, the company sets their objectives. Number one objective tends to be revenue, right? And you're all working towards that goal. So I think the moment you have two separate teams and you hand over that MQL and you say, my job's done, I've hit my target, I think that's when it all starts falling down. So it's really a case of how do you work together as a function? How do you, as a marketer, support the commercial team throughout the whole life cycle of that lead or of that prospect, and then making sure that you equipped the commercial team to achieve their goals in terms of converting that client and at the end. I think that we're long gone are the days where the marketing team are seen as like the PowerPoint people and they can do the digital ads and that's about it. I think it's a definitely needs to be a combined effort, and any way that the team can kind of collaborate and support is going to be beneficial.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really interesting. Like a lot of the businesses that I've been in, it's that first conversation that you sit down with sales, and I kind of like hold my breath a little bit. How have you worked with marketing in the past? And you're
Yeah.
just hoping that they're going to say really collaboratively. But to be honest, most of the time, and this is a scary thing, like most of the time it is, well, marketing have really helped me. Exactly what you said. Like they,
Mhm.
they've given me a couple of PowerPoints, or, they make like a nice one pager. Hate that word, like one pager, or, but
Yeah,
yeah, has there been examples that you've had where you've kind of realized that there wasn't that alignment there?
yeah, no, absolutely, and I think it's about from being a marketing leader and building that relationship very early on with whoever is the sales leader or the commercial leader within the business. And I also think, I mean, we're discussing kind of longer sales cycles here. Those sales cycles aren't linear, so that you can't just build a playbook and say, this is how it's going to work moving forward. This is how I support you. This is how what the expectations from marketing and sales are. Go and do it. It's constantly evolving, and I think when you recognize that and you try and get the insights and feed that back into the strategy moving forwards, I think it helps both organizations kind of within the company kind of reach reach their goals. But I think I would just say that the earlier you can build that relationship with the commercial team, and you are not seen as a kind of support function for any visual or content pieces, the better. And also taking insights on the other side, taking insights from the commercial team. These are the people that are actually having the face-to-face talk, chats with the client, understanding their problems, understanding any objections that they might have. That can then feed back into the marketing team's content, to their even on the website, or any of the communication channels that you have. You're addressing that problem before they even get to a commercial call. So yeah, it works both ways, and I think the earlier you can kind of set that standard between the two teams, definitely the better.
I like that, like the kind of having the constant kind of discussion and getting those insights. There was this one, I remember one time in a previous company where there was a bit of a blocker when it came to the discussing like pricing, because the pricing structure for this particular solution that that we were selling was quite complicated. It needed a little bit more. I need a little bit more explaining and conversation around it. But what we decided to do was we took that and actually brought that back in, to our kind of marketing strategy, I suppose. So like much earlier on in the process, where we were talking about not exactly pricing, but how the this particular solution was priced, like some of those sort of key elements, because you can do that much earlier. So then the prospect had, a better understanding by the time they got to the stage, and it really supported sales. But have you had something like that where you've had to change a strategy?
Yeah, I mean, and it's also in the kind of industries that we work in, and the long sales cycles usually relate themselves to these types of businesses. Is it's generally bespoke pricing, right? You need to
Mm.
understand the volumes that they're doing, or the amount of checks that they're doing, and you kind of build a proposal based on that. So it's not like you can go onto the website and you can say this is how much you will pay for X, Y, Z, and it's a kind of done deal. So I think one of the challenges, and I mentioned it before, in terms of having that communication, that feedback, everyone's busy, right? So
Mm.
marketing would love to hear after every single sales call, okay, what were the objections? What were they looking at? And it's practically impossible. One of the things we have looked at, and we ran a pilot last year, and it worked out to be successful, and we've kind of fully rolled it out across the commercial teams now. Is obviously the big topic at the minute is AI. Everyone wants to know which AI tools people are using, but we have call recording, or AI kind of transcriber on the call. This plugs into what they call a revenue intelligence system. The company's called Gong, and it kind of links to our Salesforce, but it also gives us as marketers access to search for keywords. Is anyone talking about pricing? Which competitors are mentioned in any of the sales calls? Is there any indication that a deal might be at risk? If so, why? And it helps us kind of start to take those insights without us having to have those sit down meetings once a week, and kind of go through case by case feedback. And anything that we can do to kind of speed up that feedback loop, I think is beneficial on both accounts. And then again, if you're a commercial person, you have all of your calls transcribed. You can have those summary of those calls. You can automatically upload that to Salesforce. So the admin side of those kind of commercial discussions as you're going through the sales cycle attracts much better, and you get such a better kind of um, yeah, you get a better view of what the sales cycle has entailed in each individual case, because it's not the same every single time, as I'm sure we know.
I love that. That's so awesome. So let me ask then, how you talked about kind of like building that relationship, and this is brilliant because with tools like those call recording tools, that you can almost there's almost an element of self-serve there, for marketing. You don't have to rely on getting that feedback from sales. You can actually go and find that intelligence yourself, or those insights yourself.
Mhm.
But then how do you kind of then communicate that back to the sales leader when you're kind of sitting down and saying, do you know what, like, listen to all of these calls, and I've actually seen that a bunch of people are asking these questions about the AI element of our solution and how it works. So I think we kind of need to do some education here. Like, how do you have that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, number one, we do have structured catch-ups with the commercial teams and the marketing function. So they're whether it's weekly or bi-weekly, they're in the diary, and there are those feedback forums. I think in terms of how do you make sure that actually you can take action from that, it's about having the data and being able to build a business case. And this is why it's so much easier when you're having a lot of that data recorded automatically, that you can start to build. And it's not from a commercial perspective, you sometimes might be kind of tempted to get one feedback from a client and then want to go and make a change instantly. Whereas if you can then go and take a case and say, do you know what, over the past 3 months, we've had 20 different prospects all raise the same issue. I think if we should be taking some action on this. This is our thoughts, and actually get their buy-in. So don't say this is what we're going to do. This is going to. Would you like to change anything? Is there anything that you would like to add on this? And again, that kind of is the collaboration aspect between the two teams rather than them operating in two separate functions there. So I think it's bringing them on the journey and again, just relating back to the fact that everyone's there working towards the same goal. The objectives are kind of split out slightly differently as it goes to a team level, but as long as you can communicate how this is going to support them and support them reaching their goals, then absolutely that is the best way forward, I would say.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I just realized as you said that about the kind of not acting on the like the bits, the insights that you find first of all, it reminds me one of my favorite kind of sayings about with sales is that whenever they've been to kind of a customer meeting, you know, like prospects meeting, a conversation, then they come back, it's that old, you know, oh, we need to create a one pager because there's always, you know, the most important thing's always their last conversation, right? You know, we could end up falling into that same trap.
100%, 100%.
What would you say is what's kind of the one thing, thinking back to all those conversations and how you've built that kind of relationship up with sales, thinking on your kind of past experience, what is the thing that that you would say that sales sometimes do fail to, I can't think of a better word than get, but you know, like get about marketing. Like
Yeah.
what would you sort of like, what would you wish that they would sort of like, they would just get it?
Yeah, no, look, I think it goes back to the two separate teams element and their marketing being a collaborator and getting a deal done rather than just a support as and when they need it. And it kind of goes back to that point of that MQL handover, right? You generate a lead for sales, you hand it over, and then it disappears and it goes and does whatever the commercial team end up doing, whether they convert it or it's closed lost. I think looking at that is and where marketers and this is something that we've been trying to work on over the last few months. It's not perfect, but we're making progress. Is actually rather than saying it's an MQL, how do we track the different touch points that both the brand and the commercial team are having with a prospect before they even close or before they convert into a kind of paying customer. So the example I would give is we do lots of events OpenPayd. I think we've done over 45 in the last 12 months and various kind of contribution, whether it's exhibiting, speaking, attending, etc. Now, events generally would be a lead source for a lead that's coming in. However, if you've got a long sales cycle, you might have to have 10 to 20 different touch points with a client before they decide to move forward. And the first interaction might have been an ad online, or it could have been a personal network from the salesperson. Yet marketing can contribute from seeing that person at an event, them visiting the website and reading some content. There's a press release that goes out with a competitor or with another business which they respond to. And it's how do you track all of the touch points which contribute towards a deal rather than just I've passed you a lead from an ad. And
Mm,
therefore it's all on you to go and convert it then. So this is something again, it's difficult to kind of track all of those different touch points, especially because they're happening in lots of different locations. But it
mm.
helps build a better picture of how all of the different activities are contributing towards the win of a client or helping them down that sales cycle.
Exactly, yeah. You can get caught up a little bit in that, you know, whose lead is it argument, right? The, you know, is it inbound? Is it outbound? You know, was it a sales lead? Was it a marketing generated
Yeah,
lead? But, and I know we kind of talk about, what is it, marketing influenced, you know, leads and opportunities and that. But, you know, to me, it's still the same thing. It's still that you're trying to go down that one or the other path. But how do you handle that then in your world?
yeah. I mean, I'm going back a few years now, but it must have been maybe 3 years ago. We were really struggling to work out why some of the marketing channels or the events that we were working at weren't kind of doing so well. and you looked at the lead source for all of the leads that were coming in, and it was personal network, personal network, personal network. And I think there was a viewpoint from the commercial function that network meant more because they've gone out and sourced their own lead, and therefore they were adding more value in that sense. And this comes back to being more collaborative. Like we care where the leads come from, but the the channel is really important for us to understand, because then we can um, invest more or we invest less, and we can start to make better decisions off the data that we have. So that was a bit of a kind of a mind shift change that we had to make, and gladly we have done now. But it just kind of goes to show when you operate, when teams operate in two different silos, then it's not beneficial for either team. And I think it's all about how you can collaborate better together.
So you just said that the kind of the key ingredient there. It's like it's just a bit of a mindset shift, isn't it? Then, if that was effectively the same thing. The leads were coming from the events, but the way it was being reported was because, like you said, they sort of held more um, uh, power or whatever the word is, than in sort of
Yeah.
saying it came from their personal network, where it didn't really matter.
Yeah. And then you have to get the incentives aligned, right? As long as the that lead, when it's going through the funnel, is the kind of incentive is attributed in the same way, there shouldn't be any different in the channel. And the more, like I said, the more data you have to kind of confirm that the activities are working, it's better for both teams.
So when it comes down to it, then, like when you're, or in fact, actually, let me ask the question, like how, if you're sitting down kind of planning next year with the commercial director, and kind of thinking, okay, well, where are we going to invest? Where are we going to put that budget and that time and energy across both of the teams? Like, how do you together kind of come to that decision?
Yeah, I mean, we look at, I mean, straight into the CRM to see where the kind of high level attribution has been. We also take qualitative feedback off the team. So there might have been, again, an event where it was great for existing clients, in terms of the seniority of people there, the conversations that you've had, the meetings that were set. But new business might have been quite poor. As long as you can recognize that and you're tracking that throughout, then it's a joint decision, and we just want to be able to kind of support the growth of the business on both sides, right? So it is collaboratively done when we're doing that plan, and you need to get buy-in from everyone. So it's not just the sales and the marketing team. You have the exec team who you might need to go and speak at these events, or attend some of the strategic meetings that are taking place. There is obviously the onboarding team have to deal with the aftermath of those events when they're kind of pushing clients through on the onboarding side. So it's making sure that you're not just planning again in silos. Everyone's kind of bought into the plan before you start the year, but you also have the ability to adapt as you go along the year, because yes, you can come up with a plan for 12 months. I think a lot changes within that time period. You might have different product launches. You might be looking at new markets. You might be getting new licensing, and that kind of impacts where the focus might be. So I think generally we try and the kind of 12-month plan, but I'd say probably every quarter we evaluate whether or not the spend's been efficient, whether or not we're still aligned with the company objectives, or there's different priorities that come along. So it's being able to adapt as you go along, but again, just making sure that everyone's being brought along the way.
Yeah, I love that. I really like that. So it sounds like you've got quite a good thing going, kind of
Yeah.
where you are at the moment, and you've taken, but it takes time to kind of to build that, to build on that. But where would you say, what would you say would be kind of a piece of advice that somebody's like, if somebody's in a situation where that relationship does need work,
Mhm.
what would be sort of something practical that you would sort of suggest to that person to do to kind of kick it off?
I would say, I mean, number one, you need to build the trust between the person, right? So they need to trust that you're an expert in your field, you understand what you're doing. And the one thing that I always say to the team, is you need to be probably the most, 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 the knowledgeable person on our product and our industries within the whole business. Because from a marketing perspective, you're building the collateral, you're identifying the events that you go into, you're looking at the different types of businesses, you're building go-to-market plans. If you're not deep in the knowledge, you're not going to get that buy-in internally, or you're not going to be able to influence people internally. And B, that trust with the other commercial leaders isn't going to be there. And so therefore, again, I say to the team, you need to build deeper knowledge within the products and the industries that we work in. Um, and it's a case of looking at, for example, we have multiple different industries that we work with. So it could be financial institutions, it could be digital asset businesses. Each of those industries has their nuances. So although we have a kind of a platform which or an API which people can integrate, it can be used in multiple different ways across those different industries. As a marketer, you need to understand those nuances, because when you're having that conversation with a go-to-market plan or a marketing plan with the commercial lead, and you're missing the point on some of these areas, that trust just isn't there, and you're not going to get the same buy-in. And yeah, I think that's where the relationship needs to start, is where you're seen as a function, not just a support function as and when they need it, but a clear function to help grow the business.
So practically kind of speaking then, so you have we've got that whole kind of like buying process, or the whole sort of that very long sales cycle. um Marketing are kind of primarily responsible for the kind of the awareness piece, and I would argue sales have responsibility there as well. That's the sort of thing, we need it to be everyone kind of across all of it, but primarily kind of it's marketing sort of doing the awareness strategy. And then you have the point where it does become an opportunity and it does need that sales expertise.
Mhm.
But how do you personally, within like you and your teams, balance the kind of amount of time and resource that you spend like in those different areas? So I kind of get, we I've managed the same sort of way in other organizations, where it isn't just kind of like chucking it over the fence, and that like an MQO over the fence, and we are sort of still working all the way through the opportunity as well. But there's still an element there of like almost just letting sales have to sort of do their job.
Mhm.
Then you don't want to be that support function. I don't know. Do you see where I'm going with this? It's like, how do
Yeah,
you balance it all?
yeah, no, I do get where you're coming from. I think one of the things that we've done that has worked is everyone in my team has joined multiple sales calls, even if they're just in the background, and they're just listening in. And if there's ever any areas which they're not fully understanding, the commercial team are very open to letting them join those calls. I think as soon as you hear it in the voice of the customer is the person you're trying to please, right? So therefore, not to say that they're always right, but that's where the saying comes from, right? Is because you're trying to build a business in terms of supporting specific industries, and you hear their problems and you hear their challenges, and that's what you can kind of take back into your own role. Is it perfect? No. There's always areas for improvement. Especially within industries like ours, which move quite quickly. There's always new things that teams need to pick up, whether it's on the marketing side or the commercial side. And I think it's a case of how do you set a culture of knowledge sharing within the organization as early as possible, because again, this is not by any means perfect on our side, but we're making a lot of progress in terms of making sure that when we are getting those insights from customers, we are sharing that between the teams.
Yeah. And I know you get kind of really involved. Well, I mean, obviously, like going to events yourself and kind of talking to customers. But yeah, I think you'd sort of be amazed at the amount of sort of marketing leaders that don't do that as well, don't really sort of have those conversations. So, like, why did you make that choice that you were going to be there and speaking to customers? Why is it important?
Yeah, I think this is it's probably not intentional. My background's always been in startups, and when you're working in startups, you often have to wear many hats.
Yeah.
So
Stick
I
a
think
broom up your butt as well. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I think from my background, it's always been a kind of mix of supporting the sales as a salesperson, as well as doing the marketing side. Now, as you mature as a business, you get bigger, then it's not always the case that you can be so hands on the commercial side. But it does give you that good kind of background and that I would say that setting to make sure that you are finger on the pulse on the industry, understanding the clients. And we mentioned events. Like I said, we've done about 45 events over the past 12 months. You do start to you hear new things all the time, and you pick up new issues within the industry, issues with other competitors that when you're trying to win a client, and I think as soon as you start to kind of remove yourself from that day-to-day kind of conversation with the client, I think you can get left behind quite quickly. And yeah, I think from that perspective, I've always felt the need to try and be get that face time with clients as often as possible.
Can I ask you a question? Like in your business, or in like maybe not specifically the one that you're in now, but maybe in other ones as well. Where does business development sit in your view? You're laughing. You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question because I mean, every single business has a different definition, right? So business development could be sales, it could be more on the strategy side, or it could be on the corporate development side. Um, I think from this is something that a kind of role that I took on towards the end of last year. Is more on the strategy side at OpenPayd and understanding kind of which markets that we might want to go in, product launches, etc., maybe new industry verticals. Um, and yeah, I think other companies might see it as a sales function, and you might have the whole sales team under that umbrella. I think it's fine though, right? Every business has their nuances, whether it's the kind of different levels that they have within the business, different areas that they name. I think as long as everyone's kind of understanding internally on what that means and the kind of responsibilities and the ownership that you can have with it, I think it's fine. But it's an interesting question. I get that asked that quite a lot.
I do. That's why I brought it up, to be honest with you. I get asked all the time. And I think I same as you. I think it's really nice how you answered that, what you said. I think it really does depend on the person. Like I know you've been in this business now that you're in for, was it over 4 years, I think, isn't
Yeah.
it? So you've obviously built up a huge amount of knowledge about the market and about the products and obviously the company strategy and where you've been. You've taken them on a journey. So it really does depend on the person, I think. And the whole, not every marketing leader is built the same, right? We've all got different sort of backgrounds. I sort of sit a little bit more on the sales side as well, and I've had the BDRs or SDRs, whatever you want to call it, kind of reporting into marketing, and it works quite well. But then that's because I'm leaning into my kind of experience with running that sort of business development strategy. Not everyone would have that, right?
No, no. And look, my team, they're all much better marketers than I will ever be. So I think that them having the kind of ownership of their kind of specialisms in their area, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. We're sort of coming up to time now, but we do have a little tradition on this podcast where I regularly go out to my network and I say to them, right, if you had a marketing leader standing in front of you now, like what one burning question would you ask them?
Okay.
So they don't know it's you.
Okay.
It could be anybody. And feel free to bin it off as well if you don't like the
Okay.
question. But the one I've got for you today is oh, actually, it's a good one. It's quite a broad one. But what's your favorite go-to tool, marketing tool? And is it AI? Is it an AI solution? Someone said, is it AI based? But I know what you mean.
No, it's a good question. I mean, we use a range of tools here at OpenPayd, but I mentioned it earlier on in the talk. But Gong.io is one that we've introduced relatively recently, and I think the benefits of it in terms of being able to pull those insights without having to do kind of the weekly catch up or the kind of manual discussions around what's the feedback and what's the kind of issues with pricing, competitors, etc. Being able to have that and have like a dashboard where you can track that on a weekly, daily, monthly basis is really powerful. And also automating a lot of the kind because one of the marketers' issues is often that a CRM that lacks the data. And if you can automate that upload of data, again, it benefits not only the kind of commercial teams, but the marketing team that are taking those insights and trying to take action on them. So yeah, shout out to the Gong team on that one.
That's amazing. I love that. Let's be honest, that's my favorite tool as well.
Yes.
Well, we don't use Gong. I've used I haven't used Gong actually, although I know it's equally as good. But I use another one called Gemini.
Okay,
But
yeah.
yeah, just having the exactly what you said. Like, well, first of all, being able to listen in their language, the words that they describe, because I think sometimes like we get like sucked up a little bit in our own sort of bubble, don't we? And
Yeah,
you develop this particular feature of a product and it's like, well, let's call it this, and then everyone starts calling it that, and you forget that actually the customer might describe it a little bit differently.
absolutely.
So yeah, hearing that language I think is really, really important. But there is quite some funny stories that I have around the how it picks up the words. Sometimes you do get some interesting things how people have pronounced it.
We had to train it not to OpenPayd is OPENPAYD, and we had to train it not to be OPENPAID.
Oh,
So that
okay.
took a few weeks, but no, I think there's obviously there's nothing that's ever perfect, but a lot of these tools are getting so good now, and I think. Yeah, it's something that I take a keen interest in terms of looking on the market and see what's available. See what, obviously, there's a lot of hype behind some of the tools, which is sometimes a bit unfounded. But when you find the ones that work and they fit into your kind of everyday business flows, then it's yeah, it can make
They
quite a big impact.
promise the world, don't they, a little bit? And I think, yeah, all we really need to know is what are the challenges and what is the terminology, and yeah, we can kind of magic the rest.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
thank you so much. That was really, really useful, really interesting.
My
Really
pleasure.
appreciate your time today, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, that's great. Cheers, Lucy. Appreciate it.